everyone! I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over some of the best defend teams in version 2.1 of Gems of War. I'm going to be showing a variety of teams, so regardless if you started Gems of War today or been playing for years, you should be able to find a decent defend team by the end of this video. Defend teams in general tend to have around a 25% to 30% win rate just because of how easy it is for players to win in PvP, so defend win rates tend to be rather low. Anything that's towards a 40% win rate is a really solid defend team, and if your defend team is somehow doing close to 50% or even over 50% win rate by the end of the week, it is an extremely good defend team. So let's get into a couple of options. I'm going to be splitting it up based on level, as well as showing some that are currently on the leaderboard, as well as the one that I am currently using. So let's start off all the way at the bottom. Pretty much as soon as you start in the game, you would likely want to go with 4 times Guardians as your defend team, particularly in the order of humility, loyalty, justice, and courage. You get these Guardians from guild keys, which you get from seals, which are just from whenever you do tasks such as doing PvP, doing 60 plus turns on treasure maps, and other things. The full list of them is in the guild menu. And you spend 20 seals each to open up guild chest, and there are 50% chance in every single guild chest that they will drop a guardian, and you would essentially just make a team of these. The main reason why they are so good early on is they are going to have basically twice as much stats as anything else you are facing, simply because they get 3 4 times bonuses. Whenever you use multiple of a same type troop, they'll gain a specific bonus. And these Guardians are the only troops in the game that can get 3 whole bonuses, which makes them extremely powerful when first starting off in the game, since you'll have such a extra stat bonus compared to everything else. Even if you barely level them, they'll be getting all of these extra stats, totaling at 8 HP, 8 armor, 1 attack, and 2 magic. So very, very powerful buff just for using these 4. And you can easily get these 4 within your first day of playing or in your first week of playing. So a extremely easy team to use. The banner we have set is +2 red, +1 yellow, and -1 brown. This is from the new Dragon's Claw Kingdom. So if you are a newer player, I don't believe you can unlock this kingdom until level 30. If you do not have this kingdom unlocked, you can still use this team. Just use the Donna banner of red yellow, which is this. That one, the one with the little cog on right there, the one with the little cog on it. You get this basically during the tutorial from Madonna. So if you don't have the claw, you can just use the standard red yellow, and it'll do pretty much the exact same thing. So definitely a very strong option to consider for that lower level. As we move up, another team that most of you can probably build. This is one that is towards the cheaper end. You would likely want to get Knight Coronet, Lava Elemental, and Goblin traded, and use a Sorcerer class here with the first trait. You likely won't be able to afford further than that, but luckily the first trait when using the Sorcerer class is +1 to purple, which since it uses 14 mana, if you get 2 purple surges, that'll be the whole scythe up. And we use +2 green on the banner, mostly for Goblin. This will get him up in 1 turn if you have his nature link. Even if he doesn't get a green mana surge, he'll be taking 6 green mana every single time. And the AI will really like to focus these greens. So if there's any greens on the board, it's going to be taking it, then it won't even waste a turn. It gains an extra turn whenever it casts. So it's just going to swipe those greens, do an attack for you, and just keep poking at the enemy. Knight Coronet, of course, is a very popular pick in early game, mostly because of its high 2-to-1 ratio on the gems that it removes, plus the fact that it hits 2, and one of those is the back troop, which is very effective in early game, since a lot of people early on in the game still have troops that are under-leveled, or tend to put like weaker troops in the back that would be really good targets for hitting the last enemy. One other thing that makes him really good, he does have the leadership. Normally in early game teams, you do want to have the leadership trait on your very first troop, just because 3 stats to everything is a lot more effective early on in the game. It also has Water Spirit, which in this particular team will not be doing too much, just 1 extra magic. But what really makes this work is the fact that it has Stone Skin as well as Lava Elemental. Many teams in early game aren't really set up always to know that they need to avoid things like Stone Skin with Skull Spams like teams, or just attack teams in general. And troops with Stone Skin like these are really effective early on just because of how durable they'll be in your defend matches. They'll pretty much just keep surviving as everything, including their cells with their high damage, just keeps poking at the enemy. And of course, Creeping Death. Creeping Death is actually one of the strongest weapons in the entire game, and is actually fairly easy to obtain. All you have to do is get 250 wins on the Necromancer class, which you get from completing the Kitar bonus quest line. And fairly easy. Of course, you Goblin you start off with, and both of these are ultra rare, so they won't cost too much to upgrade. So overall, a really effective team for how small amount of resources and how easy it to obtain it actually is. So let's get into some higher teams now for 200 to 500. Of course, teams like this you could use even later than this. This is just a general level frame of which I feel like they would be the strongest within the current meta. This one was one I actually used to use a while back, but with hero up front, like assassin class or archer class in the first slot, but this one works too. We're basically using a true damage rushdown deck. Of course, Astral Spirit and Spirit Fox both have Empowered. They'll be starting with their ability from the very first turn, both of which do true damage. And what is really fun about this on Defend is the Miststalker for cleanup. One really good thing about Miststalker is it's set to always hit the weakest enemy, which is really good for when it's on a Defend team, because the AI can never mess up its attack. It's always going to hit the weakest enemy on the enemy team, regardless of what the AI feels like doing during the match. And this is really good with Astral Spirit and Spirit Fox, because an Astral Spirit cast with a Miststalker, or a Spirit Fox with a Miststalker, can essentially kill just about everything in the entire game if you have them leveled up compared to your enemies. So a very, very effective combo. Also, true damage tends to be really good just in general in this game, since you're in many cases avoiding half the stats on every single trip. You're just aiming straight for their HP rather than their armor. And speaking of that, since every single thing on this team only hits HP, Astral Spirit, Miststalker, and Spirit Fox all hit HP, not armor. Bone Dragon works really good with it because he specifically destroys armor, so none of them will be messing up any of the enemy armor, except Astral Spirit if it gets skulls, but that wouldn't be too often, and the Bone Dragon would normally hit something that has armor anyways. But it'll just tear apart their armor, gain a bunch of skulls on the board, and then Astral Spirit will just clean it up with its standard attack, which is not like excessively high. It is a bit higher for a troop, so that is pretty decent to have on it, since it's like you can see right here, we have 25, 26, 27. Generally, Astral Spirit is a bit higher. Anointed one is a fairly high. Aberrath is fairly high, so it's only about a few attack off from where the highest marks are for attack in the entire game. So a fairly good lead troop for having skull spam with it too. It doesn't gain any bonus, unfortunately, like 2 times or anything with all of the skull spam, but overall, with the amount of true damage you're doing, the main premise of this team is that Miststalker will be cleaning up literally everything. The Bone Dragon's mostly just there in case they don't have any kind of stone skin or granite skin or anything. It'll just tear through them like nothing. But the main premise of this team is Miststalker will just clean up every single thing that the Astral Spirit and Spirit Fox hit. And of course, one other thing that makes this team fairly good is the fact that Spirit Fox does drain mana. Mana drain is really popular in this game right now, since it can really disable the enemy team. Something else to note is that Spirit Fox and Miststalker both have Stealthy. So if the enemy team is using anything with targeted, they have to hit at Astral Spirit or Bone Dragon instead of Miststalker and Spirit Fox. And by the time they actually kill Astral Spirit and Bone Dragon, if they happen to, you'll still have the Miststalker Spirit Fox combo, which should be fairly good at doing cleanup, since of course you just cast both of them and that's a dead troop. And he also gains extra magic. On top of all this, he has poisoned whenever if he doesn't kill anything, if he happens to not to. And he even gains 3 magic every single time he kills anything. So yeah. And we have the banner set to brown-red. The main reason for this is to get Bone Dragon up quick. And if the Bone Dragon dies, it also has that magic link. We have that just so if we get Mana Surge on both brown and purple, it'll get up in only 2 turns. And for Miststalker, once the Bone Dragon dies, it'll have that extra red. So Miststalker 2 will be able to get up in 2 turns and only needs 1 surge instead of 2. And let's get into the other team for the same level range. This is probably the most popular triple combo in the entire game. It has been for a while now. It also works decently on defend, as you can see. I have it set to brown yellow. Normally I set it to brown red, but the AI does not work as well with brown red, mostly because it'll keep taking away Shegra's reds and wasting it on serpentine daggers. So you do not want to set your banner to red if you set this as your defend team. But we have Mercy here, who will hopefully trigger Inferno King up, and then Inferno King will hopefully not miss. Of course, it's a little bit of a high risk, high reward. A lot of defend teams are actually pretty decent with that. You tend to want to go something that can do like a really hard push rather than something that's going to be consistently okay, because consistently okay against an actual player is not going to be too hard to beat. If you have something that can pop something really strong out of nowhere, even if it has a high chance of missing, just the fact that you might get it sometimes will help you get more wins in your defense. But as far as this team goes, you'd want to use it with the Assassin class if you can, mostly so you can hopefully get the trigger on the poison and then increase the chance of this to instantly kill. It has a 10% chance to kill whatever it targets and 20% if they're poisoned. But the main reason you want to use the Assassin class, though, is for the skull spam, which the Assassin class has a 10% chance to kill the last enemy whenever it matches skulls. And with Inferno King and Shegra, your AI defend team will be able to trigger that quite a bit. And if it just takes a random skull and it ends up triggering that 10%, that would completely devastate the enemy team and will pretty much guarantee you to win if it triggers that very low percent on either its weapon or just from taking random skulls. And next up, we have the very late game teams. This particular one I have seen a lot of, and it is pretty decent. I personally do not use it. It is Emperor Corvash, Amira, Spirit Fox, and Manticore. It is a very heavy mana drain team with 3 mana drains, of course, Emperor Corvash, Spirit Fox, and Manticore, 2 of which start with Empowered. Both have a 7 mana drain from the very first turn. And why most people tend to use this, or a lot of people, it has Corvash up front, which of course getting leadership and Stone Skin, so a really good tank. It also has all those stuns whenever it does 4 times or higher, which is going to completely disable anyone in late game, since everyone at this kind of level range will most likely have all 3 traits on every single troop that they have. But what really makes it work is the fact that Amira and Spirit Fox, if you have them both fully traded, will have Stealthy on them. So that will make sure they both have it on their second trait. That'll make sure that they can't be targeted. And if your Emperor Corvash happens to die in a defend team, well, the Mana Core will be the only thing they can target, and Mana Core has Impervious, so anything they do to it is not going to work as far as status effects are concerned. So it works pretty well that way, and as far as kill potential, it's essentially just true damage them down until they die. Also, Amira, of course, does do double damage to anything with blue, and using blue troops on a invasion team is very popular due to Valkyrie, Soul Farm, and stuff along those lines. Next team, I actually have a couple more teams to show after this last team here, but it is Manticore, Deep Boar, Hero, Sorcerer class with Creeping Death, and a Famine. Of course, this is kind of with the mana drain as well. Manticore up front just to rack up attack. It also has Impervious, so you're not going to be getting an Entangle or any kind of status effect that can interrupt it early on in the match. We have Deep Borer, who's going to be feeding Famine. We even have the double brown banner, which I normally don't do with spawners, but with a defend team like this, it actually works pretty good, since it'll just fill up Famine pretty much instantly in most instances, as long as the Deep Borer doesn't completely mess up. And then you just got yourself a Famine cast, and then between Famine and Creeping Death, they'll just melt to all of your damage potential. And there are 2 more teams I want to show. The first is, actually we're already on it, so let me go over to mine, X out. Okay, why is the game not letting me X out? Yeah, good job, Bug Team. Well, I'll show you the other way then. My defend team, I was going to go all the way out to show it, but we can just show it from here, since the game doesn't want to X out for some reason. This is currently what I use as my defend team. I have around I think like 35 to 40% win rate with it this week. I have seen it get higher in the past. One particular reason why I like to use this team, even though it does have a slightly lower win rate than this team over here for defend, is because it actually gets gems quite a bit. Whenever you do 7 times or higher cascades in a normal match, you normally get a treasure map. But if this occurs from your defend team doing it, you get 1 gem. And this can start adding up if you really have a team that can do 7 times cascades or higher fairly well. These are normally troops that do the best troops that are normally good at doing this is any troop that can do a double spawn like this. Whenever it does like 8 spawns of 2 colors or 9 spawns of 2 colors or something along those lines, those troops tend to be fairly good at getting a few extra gems on occasion. Not like an excessive amount. There won't be like pouring in, but you know, during the course of a week, you might get something like 10 to 20 extra gems just from your defend team. So that's a nice little extra amount, even though you might have a slightly lower win rate with them. That's one of the reasons I use this. Of course, the general premise is hopefully the AI will get Valkyrie and use it correctly. Then you have Vash and Lady Ornerial. Lady Ornerial just keeps looping. And then you have the Lady Ornerial with Famine combination, which will pretty much just take down... it takes out pretty much anything. The only thing that's really good against it is if the enemy team can get Death Mark or Devour on them. That'll just completely mess up this team. But other than that, it does fairly good, and it'll the Lady Ornerial HP buffs will just make it so huge that I'll pretty much never die, except to Death Mark or Devour or instant kills like that. And Famine, of course, will just keep looping to the point that the enemy team will never be able to get anything off. But let's go over to this team over here. This team almost has a 50% win rate this week, and it's on Sister, who's on the top of the leaderboard. I think she's like, what, 3rd right now or something? She's normally all the way to like the top 2 or 3 or around that general area every single week. And this is the team she's currently using: Gorgotha, Manicore, Emperor Corvash, and Def. Arguably, based on the data right now, I would say this is quite possibly the best defend team in the entire game if you have them fully traded up to Mythic. As far as countering this team, before I explain why it's good, you'd want to counter this team, you'd likely want to use the new Daemon Hunter thing that was added to Blighted Land the other week that everyone got for free. That'll be really good against Gorgotha, Manicore, and Def. You might want to use something like a Mana Drain, like a Spirit Fox or Manicore, when facing this team, just so you can drain out their Manicore, just so it doesn't do anything to you. Spirit Fox in particular would block Gorgotha and Manicore mana as well to make sure they can't get anything like that. You might also want to use something with Impervious, like, of course, use the Manicore just to counter the Manicore, and then you have the Impervious, just so you don't have to deal with Death or the stun on Corvash. Would help a little bit. You want to be able to disable this team out quickly, just so they won't be able to keep draining looping you, since it is a double drain with a Death. And of course, those Death Marks, if they trigger, that's going to be extremely devastating. One Death Mark can really mess up an entire team. Some other combination that you can use is anything with a Humility on your team. Since Def, most likely in any of these teams that you see, it will likely be fully traded. If you put a Humility up front, you'll be fully traded Humility, that is. You'll be gaining 2 armor and 2 magic on all of your troops every single turn, because Def will just keep lowering you by 2 HP every turn. So technically, Def will be buffing you more than it's actually being debuffing you. So overall, you can really counter it with a Humility as well. But as I said, this team actually has about a 50% win rate. The main thing that makes it work really well is the banner choice. One thing that I see people making a huge mistake with a lot is with Gorgotha in first slot. You never, ever, 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 ever want to use plus anything on brown or yellow when using a Gorgotha, ever. Never set any kind of plus bonus to brown or yellow, or minus for that matter, but particularly plus. The main reason for this is the AI will start prioritizing those manas, and you do not want your Gorgotha taking browns and yellows. The main reason for this, you do not want it gaining any more extra mana than it's already gaining. This is mostly because if your Gorgotha gets all of its mana back up from its explosion, let's say like accidentally gets a brown pair from it, and that's going to start giving some extra mana and stuff to it. If it gets all of its mana back up, the Gorgotha is just going to recast its ability, and it'll just keep doing that over and over and over and over again until the AI eventually gives the enemy team a really good setup that it can just crush you with. You do not want to set any kind of bonus to your Gorgotha. You want to set it to other troops. so that they can easily get up theirs. Of course, you can see it's using +2 blue and +1 purple. This is mainly, of course, to get up the Emperor Corvash, and the +1 purple would also help get up Death. The reason she's using this instead of just +2 blue, because essentially it's the same thing. The main reason, though, is so the AI will prioritize it more. The AI will start prioritizing blue and purple more. If she set it only to +2 blue, it would only be prioritizing blue, whereas it wouldn't really be prioritizing purple. The main reason this actually works pretty well is since it won't be going for reds, all the reds will just kind of be staying on the board. And then Gorgotha will be able to explode them for full value. So having the banner set like this is actually quite beneficial to the team. And other than that, the general premise of this team is to just keep stunning and disabling like crazy with the mana drain, and it'll just keep repeating that over and over again until it eventually wins. It also has 2 staggered skull reduction, which works pretty well. It has the huge Gorgotha up front with 75%. If the enemy team's using skull spam, it then has to deal with a mana core that has an excessively high attack because it keeps gaining attack every time it casts. Then you have to run into a stone skin again, and then of course just Death in the back, who even has bonus to skulls if it was against a skull team. So very high skull counter, pretty high counter to everything, since mana drain is very, very popular in this game right now. But it is fairly easy to counter as long as you can get things with Empower triggering quickly, or just use Mana Drain against Mana Drain itself. But anyways, that'll wrap it up for some of the best defend teams currently within the game. If you know of any other ones that you've been getting high win rates with, feel free to leave it in the comment section below, because I know there are a large variety of defend teams out there that do work effectively. And of course, I'm not towards the mid game or extremely early game, and can't really say for sure what does or doesn't indeed work. But I was just giving my general ideas of what I feel like would work within the general level ranges of the game, as well as being accessible for those level ranges. But anyways, that'll wrap it up for this video. Thanks for watching. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave that in the comment section below too. And have a wonderful day.